Alrighty, we got chicken stock. I think. So this just finished cooking. So when you make risotto, you want to have hot chicken stock, and I mean, it's not going to get much hotter than this. Ish. It's going to work out just fine. Now, this is our rice here. And this is all of our onion and celery and a little bit of ginger that was cooked off in butter. Now what I'm going to do, oh, there we go, is cook the rice off in the butter and toast the rice. This is kind of a very important step. You want to toast the rice because you want the kernels to kind of keep their shape even though they're going to turn into a big gooey saucy mess. Because if they don't keep their shape, it's more like congee than it is risotto. And not like there's a big difference, and not like anybody's really gonna care. But if you're gonna make risotto, make risotto. And if you're gonna make congee, right? Or okayu. I would say okayu. Like when it comes between congee and or rice porridges, that's my go-to favorite. Being a being a humble cook living in Japan, that was my dinner or my supper every day. Was I made okayu with whatever vegetables were in season, which were, I mean, the most incredible selection of vegetables I've yet to see in my life, in any country that I visited to. So I would try new and different vegetables, new and different types of rice, and new and different types of miso. So as many different things that I could find. And after I made the okayu, I enriched it with whatever type of new miso that I would find that day, or a new type of shoyu from somewhere, or really whatever. And getting so used, and when I say every day, I mean literally every day. I mean every day for like 3 solid years. That's what I ate, for a bunch of reasons. But mostly because I was alone for the majority of the time, and I still wanted to interact with the food on a personal basis instead of just work. I wanted to taste different things, but I was also really, really busy. Like I was doing a keto for a couple hours 3 times a week. I was running every day on the mountains. I would get out of town, and plus my work life was busy. Like depending on the day, really. Like some days were like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours long, whatever it was. But I always was able to sit down and eat, and that's kind of I found that to be, well, that was a new thing. That's the first time I've ever been able to sit and eat supper in my adult life. I was cooking all this time. Anyways, that's why that's where my love of okayu kind of came from. And not only my love of okayu, where I started to see nuances and different tastes in miso. And that's really where my interest in that peaked. Like, you have almost the exact same, like three or four ingredients, and you have these wildly different flavors. You can have something that tastes like caramelized bananas, or you could have something that tastes like dark chocolate, or you could have something that tastes like, like a very, like almost tangy, sour roast beef. And it's all from the same ingredients, and the only thing that really kind of changes is the method. This is why all cooks are thinkers, because all we do is we stand here and think about our life while we're stirring a pot of risotto. Anyway, so here we are. We got our rice kind of toasted up a little bit. You'll see it's going to kind of get translucent. And if you can't see, I mean, I guess you're going to have to trust me. So it's kind of translucent on the outside. You can see the little kernel there still. That's kind of what you want. That means that the outside's kind of nice and toasted, and it's going to keep its shape. And but it's still going to allow kind of goo to come through. So I'm going to start hitting them with stock before it gets any browner. Or you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do first? Yeah, we'll do that first. We'll go with the stock. And that's kind of what you want to see, is instant action. And I'm going to turn this down. So every time you add stock, you kind of want it to be boiling. You don't want it to be cold, because if you keep adding it cold, you're going to make okayu, not risotto. And again, if that's just kind of what it is. There you go, a little bit at a time. And I'm going to wait for this to absorb, and as soon as this gets fully absorbed, there we go. Yeah, as soon as this is fully absorbed, then I'm going to add some more. And that's kind of the risotto game. You cook it, and it's kind of bubbling, and then it kind of runs out of liquid, and then you add some more, and then you cook it, and then it runs out of liquid, and then you add some more. That's what's going to give you the nice texture of the risotto. It'll keep the firm outside of the rice, but allow the rice to bleed all of its starch into the water, kind of creating, I guess, a slurry that thickens the water. So that's what you kind of want. And instead of taking this start to finish in one go, which can be kind of tricky depending on the timing of your life, I'm going to cook it until it's like, I don't know, 80, whatever, 90% done. And, well, I'll probably cook it till 80, take it off the heat, leave it in this pan. And when we're ready to eat supper, as soon as I turn my veg pot on, I'll crank this heat up, and I'll schwack my corn in. Or maybe I'll do that when it's off the heat so the corn cooks. I might do that. And I'll add a few more ladles of the stock, and then I'll finish it when it's supper time. I'm not going to finish it now and then hold it, because it won't work out that well. And what do I mean by work out that well? It'll lose its texture, one, and the starch will kind of like stop binding, and it'll slowly start to bleed. So like if you've seen risotto that like a good telltale sign of a risotto that's been overcooked or held too long for whatever reason, is that it's kind of like a lump of rice on a plate, and then it bleeds liquid that kind of looks like this. Like, it's not really thin, so it's kind of like this. It's like cooked rice with like light kind of goo pooling outside the outside in a mound. That's not good. And that, because it doesn't have because it doesn't have the it's not like risotto, and it's not like okayu. So you lose that nice texture of rice. So it's just kind of like overcooked rice in a bunch too liquid. So that's why we're going to cook it till it's almost done, and then take it off the heat, and then finish it right before supper. And when you see like a perfectly whatever well cooked risotto, properly cooked risotto, the traditional method is to put it on those big wide plates that are like very, very thin. And I mean, I don't eat like I'm not going to do that, because I mean, we're at home and I don't care. But the reason they put it on those plates is kind of prove that the rice will basically slide and then keep a uniform texture throughout. It's not a bunch of rice and then a puddle of light ricey goop. Now, if you do get to that direction, and I mean, I've been there, and I mean, you kind of feel like a dummy. If you add enough butter to it, it basically creates a beurre monté inside of the liquid, and then it will appear similar, even though it won't be. It'll appear so. Similarly with cheese. I mean, if I find it too much. I find if you're going to use a lot of cheese in your cooking, you're trying to hide something. That's just me, though. This will probably take 20 minutes start to finish. Maybe a bit less, depending on the rice. Once you get to about the 10-minute mark, I would start taking the rice out and giving it a bite and seeing where it is. There's a pretty hard kernel in here still. Let's see if we can figure this out. Perhaps, yeah. There you go. You can kind of barely see it, but it's quite. Come on now. Are we gonna make it there? There we go. A little too dark. Anyways, it's hard still, very hard. You want to take it off when it's like hard and it's not cooked, but it's almost kind of cooked. If that were a cuisson, that's the cuisson you want. The nice part about making this, though, is that it looks very, very fancy, and I mean, I think it kind of is fancy, in a nice way. But you can do this ahead of time, and hold it, and then reheat it at the last second at a minute, because that's what like every 99.9999% of restaurants do. And I saw recently Dale McKay made some risotto, and he wrote in his little blurb underneath that. If restaurants say they don't do that, they're full of it, and I would agree with them. The guy knows how to cook, and every restaurant that I've been in, this is what they do. So we're almost there. That's about 2 minutes out, I think. So in about 2 minutes, I'm going to take this off the heat, and I'm going to let it cool down. I'm going to keep it in this pan so I can go a little bit on the harder side. I mean, you want to get really exact. Like if you're working at a restaurant, you do this, and then you throw it onto a big sheet pan, all nice and flat, make sure that's cool, throw it in the fridge, and some guy later on picks it up as part of his mise en place and throws it in a 6-pan, but I mean, we're at home, and I don't want to deal with that here or ever again. So I'm going to leave it in the pan, which means I can cook it a little bit less than I would if you're in a restaurant. But I mean, the chicken stock tastes pretty good, and the rice tastes good, and it's going to be nice with corn. And I found some this stuff, bitter greeny stuff, and I'm going to throw that in with a veg, and that's going to offset the richness, not only of the risotto and the pork roast that we're having, but the sweetness of the corn. And that's important, that everything kind of gets balanced out. Because if you push too hard, like if you do a rich thing matched with a rich thing and a rich thing, I mean, I guess sometimes that's okay, but I mean, this is home cooking. This is not restaurant life. Okay, so I think that's it. We're pretty close to it. So I'm going to let whatever liquid's in here kind of come out. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay, that's going to be good. Now I'm going to add this stuff so it kind of takes the chill off. So this corn's going to cool down this rice pretty immediately. I'm going to take it off the heat. I'm going to mix it in. So this is like a giant ice cube that I just added to my rice. And I mean, that always starts to look kind of good. So the corn's going to cool down the rice. The rice is going to warm up the corn. And I'm going to leave this on the side of the stove. And then I'll finish it, 5 minutes before supper time. Here we go. Corn risotto. Pretty easy.